Hey everyone, happy Thursday. Welcome to Virtual Veg Fest Live. Today we have Keith Allison with us, which is super excited. And we had, a few technical issues. That's why we're a little late today, but that's okay. Cuz that's what live is all about. Tech issues and whatever happens. So as Keith gets himself situated, we want to say thank you to Find Veg Love for being our sponsor of our lives this week. And to remind you that Plant-Based Network is our partner and that you can access Plant-Based Network on Apple and Android now by downloading the apps. And then virtualvegfest.com is where you can shop our vendors. And of course, Triangle Veg Fest this weekend is having a virtual event and you can shop our vendors all weekend, which would be fantastic. And of course, it doesn't just end there, it goes on and on and on. So you can shop all the time, but especially this weekend because it's the weekend that we were supposed to have Triangle Veg Fest, our seventh annual event. So a little sad, but pivoting to do what we can. And let's talk about Keith. So I met Keith, and just so you know, you can ask us questions, you can post comments, and we'll get to them. So thank you for watching on YouTube or in Virtual Veg Fest or through Facebook. We really appreciate it. Now, I met Keith, I don't know what it is now, 4 years ago. I'm not sure. It's about that, right?
Something like that.
I I was hired to be an ethical choices educator, and we went through a boot camp. And I say it's a boot camp because it was an immersive weekend in a hotel in Atlanta or outside of Atlanta, and it was intense. And it was also incredible because it was a room filled with like-minded people, and the energy was just incredible. Imagine putting like about 30 people who all value veganism and animals and the planet in one space to learn about how to educate people on veganism, animals, planet, and health. And that's what it was. And I'm still friends with many of the people in our class. And Keith was like our leader. Well, Keith was our leader, right? I mean, I get it. He didn't start
Was.
it or create it, but he was our leader for our class. And I just, adore him. And you made such a great impression, and you helped us with team building and activities, and obviously training, teaching, and it obviously made a very lasting impression on me. We cried. And it was like it really was just absolutely incredible. And I feel fortunate that I was part of a class that you were part of teaching, because I know that wasn't the future didn't end up being that way, but we were very fortunate to have you as one of our leaders to teach us. So that I want to say thank you. And then on the other side, forgetting about ethical choices, not that that's not a bad program, it's a fantastic program, but Keith is an author. Keith has written poetry, Keith is an activist, and he lives in Ohio. And we're going to learn more about him, and he's going to like read from his poetry, and I want you all to like experience the person that I experienced as well as you can through a live. So Keith, I'm going to throw it at you to share with people who you are and what you've been doing with your life. And so everyone can get to know you like I got to know you.
Oh, well, thank you so much. That was very kind. Yeah, I had a great meeting you so many years ago, and a wonderful experience. Who am I? Yeah, I just someone who cares, I guess, as so many of us do. Probably anyone who clicked on here do about what can we do to improve the world around us? How can we share more compassion and more love, and just spread that and raise awareness and connect with people who ultimately we all have the same goals. We all have the same, even if we don't visualize them in the same way. Like everybody wants, well, the vast majority of us, want more love and more peace and more kindness, and those really aren't hard sells. How we go about doing that can be a hard sell sometimes. Veganism certainly isn't something that everyone is open to immediately, unfortunately. But the idea of like, yeah, spreading compassion, spreading love is something that everyone, at least in theory, accepts and thinks they are open to. It's just a matter of which hurdles we're willing to climb to do those. So I've been writing poetry for about 5 years. I guess my first experience, maybe a little bit longer, but my first experience in the world of activism, as far as veganism goes, is happened really early after I became vegan. I went vegan about 9 years ago, I believe, after being vegetarian for many years before that. And I woke up with this image in my head of the roles reversed, and there were these humans hooked up to milking machines, and the cow sitting and reading the newspaper in the plant, and everything just completely reversed. And I drew it. I ended up like taking what was in my head, what I woke up with, and drew it and sharing it. Without, at a point, I certainly would not have called myself an activist at that point in time that I drew this picture, but it just what was in my head. So it was a very quick leap. And one of my friends are kind of like, "So are you an activist now?" And I'm like, well, I wouldn't have called. I'm just like sharing truth, but I guess it's kind of what activism is just sharing truth and spreading awareness. So I accepted my label pretty quickly, and I started writing a lot of things. A lot of it just comments on Facebook, dialogue and discussions, and ended up putting out a book in 2015 of artwork and essays. And then just this past February, I put out my poetry book. It has a few essays at the end, but primarily poetry, which is called Screaming with My Indoor Voice. And so that's the new book with the poetry. There were two poems in the first book, which are both appear in this one as well. But yeah, just filled with lots and lots of poetry on things that are important to me, on veganism, on social justice, on politics, some personal poems in there as well.
That's amazing. I didn't even know you had another book out. So that's really awesome to know that. I went
Thank you.
looking for the book in the house. I cannot find the book that you gave me when I
Oh,
met
okay.
you. I don't know where it is. I looked in the two places where it could have been. I wanted to have it, and I
Oh,
I don't know where it is. So it's somewhere, but
all right. Well,
you're
I
gonna
can
get
always
it
get you
now.
another copy.
I'm sure it's definitely here. It's just not
Okay,
where I thought it was. So there it is.
that's the
Yes,
first
and
one.
and it's inscribed by you to me. And some of your artwork was actually used in our training program, which
Oh,
was like really cool,
thank you.
right? Because I mean, one of the things that stands out, you're the one that you did the photo of the human drinking from all the animals, right?
I did do that. Yes, I
Right. So
did. Draw.
just to give everyone a little bit of a visual as best as I can, not my forte to describe, which is why I probably should have you do it. It's a human sitting underneath the teats, as I would say it, of all different animals, not just a cow, to explain how it seems so absurd that we would drink another animal's milk
I don't know how.
because oh, that's awesome. Yeah, right? There it is. Like the one with the cow and the human just in drinking like somebody else's milk. And I mean, it's absurd because we're the only species on the planet that drinks another species' milk. And we're the only species that drinks milk past being weaned by our parents or our mom, I should say.
Right.
So and that just depicts how absurd it is that we do that, which when you see a human doing that actually coming from the source as opposed to it being processed through a factory farm with dairy milk and then coming in
Yeah.
a bottle or a container and putting it in your refrigerator and then pour it into a glass, very different. It's not very different that you're drinking the milk from an animal just because you bought it in the supermarket.
Right.
Right? So, I know like having that as part of a presentation was actually really cool and had the effect that it should have.
Yeah.
So that's like I said, one of the things that you've come up with to share with people, which is pretty awesome.
Well, thank you, thank you. It's fun getting people to reimagine things and re-envision things, and like you were saying, how I mean, it's ridiculous if you sit down and think through some of the things we do, but we accept it because it's normalized, and so anything normalized becomes normal to us. But if you actually challenge that from a scientific level and look at, would an elephant drink from a rhino, etc., that yeah, it's just kind of ridiculous. So it's fun to put that through in artwork or in poetry, and kind of let that play out, and people just see it for themselves and let themselves kind of challenge those concepts and come to their own conclusions. But being able to look and go, okay, that is pretty weird.
That is, I want to say like thank you to Wendy. She posted a comment that says, "Keep spreading the love. You never know when the seeds will grow,"
Aw,
which is 100% true. And that's what this whole thing is about is we don't know who will watch this and who will listen and who will suddenly go, oh, maybe I should look more into that, or maybe I should try this or eat that, or maybe saving the planet is worthwhile.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You just don't know. And
Yeah.
that's why we do what we do, right?
Yeah.
So if you want, I know you want to read some stuff,
I'd be happy.
so let's hear it.
All right. What shall I read? I have lots of variety on things I've written. And I'm holding my phone because I couldn't get it to come up on my laptop. So I'm
No.
afraid to set it down and lose where I need to be on the phone. But I can make it all work at the same time. I'll read you a poem called A Strange Definition of Love. And I think I can do this without actually reading from the books. Let's try that once I get this placed. All right.
Okay.
Corpse chompers, flesh munchers, and partakers of carcass cuisine will not hesitate to proudly proclaim, without a hint of irony, their love for the animals upon which they dine. My brain is spinning in circles. I'm confused. No matter how long my eyes stare at the words that form the entry inside Merriam-Webster, I fail to see the inclusion of wishing someone dead. I love and eat grandma is surprisingly not an included sample sentence. I guess you could hope for an update in the next edition. Love, noun, one syllable. An intense feeling of deep affection that is easily overlooked when your stomach begins to growl. As in, oh my sweet, adorable poodle, I had such love for you until I got hungry and heated the barbecue. So there's one for you.
That was awesome. Oh, and I think you're a little. There you are. Gotta love technology.
Sorry, my
No,
yeah,
that was great. I would love to know what other people thought who listened to that. Love one syllable, one is noun, right? I mean, that was a. I'd love to hear more.
sure. And feel free if there's anything in particular you want me to speak to. Um, I will read you one.
Do you
This
have
was
anything?
based on what's
All
that?
right. Do you have anything on climate?
I do.
Or
And
do the one you
so
want
I
to do,
have,
and you can do the next one too. But climate is. I want to get climate to be more juicy for people to be interested.
yeah, absolutely. All right, I'll do this one, and then we'll make sure we get a climate poem in next. This one was a response to an article, which several of my poems have been, where I see something online and decide, and that's part of why I write. Is it's my response, it's my way I survive in a world that seems sometimes way too cruel, and so it's a way I can turn to this and put my energy and my feelings into here. There was an article in the HuffPost that had a picture of a cow made his way into the supermarket. I'm not actually positive, into the supermarket, and was shot inside in the meat aisle. But there's this picture on there, and I did write a poem about this one. It's a little sadder, but not too bad. I mean, considering what we do on a daily basis. This one's called "When Escape Only Leads to What You Were Running From." The headline reads, "The internet is freaking out about a dead cow in a supermarket." And to be fair, the cow's entrance to the meat aisle was astonishingly unique, for the simple reason that he, unlike the endless procession of others, entered alive. He wasn't meant to walk into the store on his own. The plans for his death were well underway. Like so many beside him and countless before him, he was packed tightly into a truck. An involuntary passenger with a one-way ticket to a dismal destination, the house of slaughter. But an overturned truck offered the chance of escape, and off he ran, as fast as his hooves would allow, until the strange open doors beckoned him. A respite, perhaps, from the horror both behind and ahead. But his supposed sanctuary was already filled with the bodies of his bovine brethren, dismantled and displayed in coolers kept frozen to impede their decay. A sudden bullet sent his body to the ground, falling lifeless like the packaged remains surrounding him. The customers, it seems, were upset that they had so vividly witnessed the pools of blood seeping from the broken remnants of someone who, only moments ago, was standing on his own four legs. They preferred not to think of their burgers as dead. Is that one?
That was really good. That's a message. It's profound. How can you be upset about a cow being dead in the aisle of a supermarket when there's cows and pigs and chickens dead all over the aisles of the supermarket?
Right. That's literally what you came for, was to buy that cow's dead
Right.
body, right? Dead body, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for sharing like what your inspiration has been for like writing, because I think that's important too, because that's a lot of people want to know is where did this inspiration come from, why did you write about this? So I appreciate that you're just doing that naturally, so people can
Well, thanks.
understand like, well, what was that the Huffington Post? Was that no, that those cows were saved, the ones in St. Louis that Gentle Barn saved. The, they were the ones that got Gentle Barn created Gentle Barn St. Louis because of cows running through the streets. So,
Oh, right.
yep.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting how much individual meat eaters can come to care about a certain cow if because it's okay to care about this one cow and still not care about all the rest of them, or these five
Right,
cows
right,
or whatever. You
right.
give them a story and give them a name, but of course they all have stories, they all have names if we would allow them, if we would allow ourselves to look at it that way and to visualize their stories. But yes, it can definitely be easier for someone to connect with one individual animal and then still have the barrier before we transfer that to the rest of the species.
Right. And there's one thing I want to touch on right here before you move into like a climate
Yeah,
zone.
absolutely.
One of the things that you taught me is in order to do like this whole training thing, we had to do videos of ourselves and then you had to watch them and you gave feedback. And one piece of feedback that you gave me was to not use it.
Mm,
And I feel like it's really important that we explain why you don't want to use it. And the word it in regards to a chicken, a cow, a pig, a duck, a turkey, any farm animal, any animal, your cat, your dog, they're not its. They're sentient beings. They're alive, they live, they want to live, they feel pain just like we do. And you were like, don't use it. He and she. And when you use he and she, which you just did, people tend to go, he said he. You said she. And we're talking about a cow. And it's like, yeah, because that cow was born a certain sex. A cow is a he or a she. So
mm-hmm.
I've passed that on, just so you know, that is passed on and moved forward from the lesson that I learned from you.
Wonderful. Thank
Yes, because it's important. And I say, especially when it's someone who's vegan, who's public speaking, and they use the word it. And I said, it'd be way more powerful if you actually used he or she.
you. Yeah,
Put the pronoun on the animal because the animal actually does deserve that pronoun because he is
right.
a he or she is a she. And even if you don't know what the sex is, just pick one. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. The animal is a he or a she. And then what's received, and I received it still, and I know that it's the right thing to do. Still, when you said it, it still hit me
Mm,
as you use a pronoun for a farm animal because the farm animal deserves to have an identity,
yeah.
right? So that thank you to you for helping with that lesson, and also for everyone who watches this who can understand you'll catch yourself saying it even when it comes to your cats and dogs.
Sure.
They have names and they're not its, they actually have names and sleep
And
with
you
you in
know
your
the gender
bed.
of cats and
Right, you
dogs.
know the gender. So, and they're not your possession either. They're the living beings that live in your house with you that you just chose to take care of,
Yeah.
so call them he or she, and then when other people who eat animals hear that, it will plant a seed, as Wendy said. That is something you definitely can plant a seed without even knowing,
Yeah.
by putting a he or she onto a cow or pig or chicken. It's something that people eat every day. because they kind of go, they don't say it, they might have a look on their face, but it definitely implants
It does, and it's
because
such
it,
a simple thing. Yeah.
yes, it is. And words are powerful. That's what we're saying, as to the writer.
Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, it is a way that we allowed ourselves to push something else. I mean, we've done it throughout history in so many areas, but specifically when we're talking about animals, it allows us to not care as much when they're its. And so calling them he or she or they, even singular, which is perfectly acceptable. If you don't want to misgender an animal, you can use they. That will
Mhm.
work too. But just then it's personalized and it's real. But just that simple switch, we've been so taught to say it that it can really catch people, like Helene was saying, and all of a sudden you're talking and you say use he or she in reference to a farmed animal, and like, wait, what? And it can catch people off guard because of how trained we are to refer to them as it, to not care about their individuality.
Right. Your it is your iPhone.
Yeah. Yes, that's a good
Right?
it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. All right, I can't wait to hear the next one.
Okay, so we'll move on to some climate issues here. I do have a poem which is called Earth Enters Hospice Care. It doesn't specifically talk about animal ag's impact, although that's huge. But I have poems that do the shorter poems, but reference some of animal ag's. I don't know what your preference is or how many you want to hear on climate, but do you want to stick to just the ones that are referencing animal ag, or do you want the first one as well?
Whatever you like. I told you, I'm open.
All right.
I'm enjoying this. I have someone
All right.
reading to me.
We'll start with Earth. All right, we'll start with Earth Enters Hospice Care, and then we'll move on to another one that will reference animal ag more directly. The diagnosis was terminal, the patient's suffering evident from being battered and neglected through her many years, continuously harmed by the very ones for whom she had endlessly provided. But her offerings were never sufficient. Greedily, they always demanded more. They took everything she could give, using it momentarily, then discarding it carelessly on her floor. The rot piled quicker than she could handle, seeping into her soil, into her water. She lay on her deathbed, the thermometer in her mouth noting the alarming rate with which her temperature continued to rise. As her sickness escalated, calls to her family were made. Many denied she was sick at all. Many wished they could help, but were too busy with their own lives and couldn't be bothered to help ease her pain. Some simply ignored the phone's insistent ringing, unwilling to admit they cannot live without her, that their children will suffer the consequences of their indifference. But the patient won't fully die. At some point, the invasive parasites that push her relentlessly towards her demise will cease to be. And then, finally, with their weight off her sagging shoulders, she can begin to heal.
I'm just gonna let you keep going.
Okay. I'll read two more fairly short ones here that follow kind of the same path. CharBroiling towards extinction. The speed with which the planet's lungs are being cut and burned makes me wonder how many years under the heavy humidity. Makes me wonder which animals are feeling the flames on their fleeing backs, whose homes today were just today destroyed, and which species we bumped to the front of the line in the endless progression towards extinction. Makes me wonder how much longer you'll take your beef, char broiled on the flames of global warming, and whether you will even notice the rising heat of the water before it boils us alive. And I'll give you one more on the same thing. I'll take the cheeseburger with a side of deforestation. Trees falling, burning, photosynthesis in reverse, turning future oxygen into current carbon dioxide, warming the climate to feed our gluttonous appetites for the flesh we strip from the cattle's bones.
Wendy commented powerful. So thank you, Wendy. I normally could put the comments on the screen, but they're not working today. So
Okay.
I'm just, yeah, that deforestation. Can you explain? I mean, I know you know this like the back of your hand, right? Can you can you give a little bit of an explanation as to deforestation and how it impacts our planet and the animals?
Sure. So, and it's hard for people until you look into it, I guess, to kind of visualize. People are like, well, we're going to eat anyway, or cows are just grazing on grass that we're not using. But the reality is that the primary reason we cut forest is for animal agriculture. Even just beef specifically is the number one reason why we cut forests down, why we deforest worldwide is beef. And it takes a lot of food. Cows are huge. It takes a lot of food to raise a cow, and you get a small fraction of that back. So, of all this land that we're cutting down and growing crops to feed the cattle, things like soy and wheat and corn and alfalfa, we could be filtering these into human bodies much more efficiently, much more effectively, have more food to eat, but also saving the forest. We need so much more land in order to produce animal products than we do in order to produce plant products. And so it's a horrible combination all around of what we're doing to the animals, and at the same time, what, in order to do that to the animals, what we're doing to the forest, what we're doing to our food supply, and what we're doing to the water and the air as well along the way.
Exactly. And the Amazon being torn down. And then the ground that the cattle are eating off of. You can't just so people know, you can't have cattle come and eat and eat and eat and then cut down more trees and then they run over to there and they eat and eat and eat. And you can't go backwards and plant
Sure.
on that land and grow fruit and vegetables for humans. It won't work. Keith, why won't it work?
Why won't it work?
Yep.
I mean, with the you could never return. Like a rainforest takes hundreds of years, but even a forest, I mean, what you're going to cut down in the time that the cattle are going to blaze through that is just a minuscule lifespan of that forest, and you're never going to recreate that in the time you need it. And so eventually, you just keep having less and less forest, less and less usable land along the way.
Right, because I mean the land is it's just the land that was the cows grazed on is now destroyed, and you can't just plant a vegetable in that land. The I can't remember the word for it for the soil. Do you remember what that is?
Um, oh my goodness. I know what you're talking about. No, the word's
Yep.
escaping me. It'll be there in a couple seconds, but probably, hopefully.
Right. Yeah. So something the soil is in a roundabout way is no longer
Mhm.
nutritious enough to
Right.
grow anything. It just you just can't. The ones and that's part of the problem is you're cutting down the trees so the cattle can graze and have more land to graze. And then the land that's left that they've eaten all everything off of is completely depleted of all the resources that you need to grow food. So we've fed all this food to animals that feeds less people. And the food that we fed to the cows could feed enough people where we wouldn't have hunger.
Sure.
It's I mean, Salesh Rao gave some incredible examples when I spoke to him a few weeks ago of a family of 8 kids and the mom going to work and leaving like 36 meals for the kids to eat and leaving the oldest brother in charge. Right. I mean, I know you have sons, so you take your oldest son, you put him in charge, and you added a lot of kids. And so the oldest then takes 32 of the 38 meals and gives it to
Yeah.
the farm animals. And then
Right.
the 6 meals that are left, the 8 of them have to eat. And then he says, well, you all have to figure out what you're going to do for me so that you'll eat. But 2 of you are going to starve.
Mm.
It was an incredible example, which
Yes.
made me go, why aren't people like paying attention to this climate thing?
Sure.
Because I mean, it impact. I mean, I get that health and food are like juicy, right? But climate, no planet. We won't have food to eat. We have to take care of our planet. And one of the best ways to do that, and Keith is walking, it looks like one of the best ways to do that is is to, not eat animals. And in that in turn, you save the planet, you save your health. It's absolutely amazing. It's all these benefits from not eating animals.
Yeah. Sorry for the
And it
walk.
keeps going outside.
The dog needs to go to the bathroom. I tried to get him to go beforehand and was unsuccessful. So, pardon me for walking and talking.
That's okay. I have three
But
dogs and one already barked. And that's the power of being live. So I totally get it. And anyone watching who loves animals gets that you don't let your dog not go to the bathroom just because you're having a
right, kind of
conversation.
important for all of us.
Right.
Right.
And I know you have a nice porch. So, oh, kitty cat. So, Keith, share with us, like,
Yeah.
why, why do you write?
Uh, it started. I mean, my writing primarily started as far as anything that I was keeping, anything I was using, anything I was putting out there. Started just in response when you go vegan and the rest of the world isn't, and you have that initial, oh, once everyone hears this, they're all gonna do what I did once they get the information I got, because that's what I was waiting for. And you have these unfortunately unrealistic ideas of how much people change when they hear the information, and of course some people do, but not as many as we ever hope. And so I shared a lot, and I still share a lot, but for different, not necessarily the exact same reason as then. And you get a lot of conversation back, a lot of pushback, a lot of defensiveness, as any vegan out there would be aware of, and come up again. I'd start saving them, or working them on in a word processor versus just straight into Facebook comment, and started making notes on Facebook. And eventually I looked back at how much I had, how much I'd written, how much that I liked, that I wanted to hang on to, and decided to self-publish my first book, the book you're so far unsuccessfully looking for, but it's somewhere in your house. And decided that that's what I'm going to do with this writing, and put it out there. And I wrote a couple poems in that piece. I'd written a little bit of poetry as an educator of young children and things like that along the way. And so that what got me writing there. And poetry really has been my response to, how do you keep going? How do you look at a world where we're doing this to the rainforest, we're doing this to the animals, we're doing this to people of other races and other genders, and we're doing so many things out there. And how do you just continue in a world that feels so wrong and so cruel sometimes, even though there is obviously so much love out there as well, but there's just so much to overcome on a regular basis. And poetry allowed me to respond to that. It allows me to be snarky when I want to be snarky. It allows me to spread information, to shed information, to let people see things in a new light, perhaps, and hopefully do some good along the way, but certainly do some good for me. Allow me to just express the things that I want to express in whatever way feels right in the moment. We're going to venture back inside.
Okay. Another Wendy. It's the Wendy chat convert, like,
Yay!
people.
Thank you, Wendy.
Another Wendy said thank you while you were talking. So thank you, Wendy, for commenting. Greatly appreciated. Oh, uh-oh. Keith,
Sorry.
you're black. It's a black screen now.
Oh,
At least on my
okay.
end.
Let me see if I can go up.
Yeah.
See if it's going to be. Am I there?
It's still a black screen.
Oh, okay.
That's really strange.
Give it a
Let me
second.
ask let me ask everybody, can you hear Keith still? Because that's really
And
what's
I will talk
important.
to you.
Right. I mean, it's a little arty, like, shadowy. But I would need
Wow,
someone to.
interesting. I can see myself on my screen, but
Yeah, we can see a black shadowy screen. So,
oh,
right. So Can hear you both. Okay. So just because you have a black shadowy screen, thank you, Wendy. We will, I think the best thing we can do, I guess the best thing we can do is, Keith, can you share with people, can the shadowy ghosty Keith share with people how they can buy your book or find you, how they can get in touch with you?
Oh, sure. Best option for me anyway is to come directly to me. If you email me, and my email is angrycowpoetry@gmail.com. So if you email angrycowpoetry@gmail.com and request books, I can certainly get you books directly. They are available, both, I believe, but it's definitely Screaming with My Indoor Voice, the new one, is available. Many online stores, Barnes and Noble, Books a Million. It's available through Amazon. So you can go online and find it in many different places, but you can also get one direct for me inscribed if you email angrycowpoetry@gmail.com, which is now on
Oh,
the
that's
screen.
yes. I added to the screen, and Wendy, uh, one Wendy said yes to hearing us. Actually, both of them did, and then the other Wendy said great book. So I'm sad that I can't put this on the
Thank you
screen.
both,
It's
Wendy.
really strange. Yes, thank you, Wendy Squared. We really
Both of these
appreciate
are
that you
great.
watched and you're commenting. And Keith, is there anything else
Yeah.
you want to share with everyone? Because this has been great for me. So hopefully for everybody else too.
Thank you. Here, I'll type it
Anything
in
else
the
you want to
comments
share?
too. I know you have it
Oh, perfect. Good
up.
job.
More poetry or more work? Oh, thanks. Do you want more poetry or do you want more discussion? What are you interested in? Or what are the
Well,
commenters interested in?
right, I know. What do you think you want to do? You want to leave us with like a final poem? And the first one is great as well. Okay. Oh, so both books are great. So Wendy Bowman Plants has both your books. So that's awesome. And that's
Sure.
good for everyone else to know. Get the books. And also buy them from you
She's
so they're
very kind.
inscribed, which is really cool. So you want to pick one to close us out?
Okay. Thinking for a second which one I'm going to end with. Do you want a more fun one or do you want a darker one?
Well, based on
What's
your
better to end
shadowy
on here?
screen, maybe a dark one.
Okay. I'll read not where it is from then.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry for the shadowy screen. I guess the dog outside did something. Taking the dog outside did something to my screen, but I'm trying to give him a treat when I got back in, I think is where we went wrong. But right. Bacon, burgers, nuggets. You may have bought them from a restaurant or the grocery store, but that is not where they came from. That flesh belonged to a body. That muscle was attached to bones, to nerves, to a head with a brain that knew pain and fear and human betrayal, to a heart that pumped blood that was spilled all over the floor of the slaughterhouse, directly because of that dollar you just handed over to purchase the remains of their now lifeless body. Your denial does not change their reality. Your hope that they lived a happy life before you wish them dead does not offer them comfort. You know taste. They knew suffering. But their suffering is easy to ignore in the checkout line where their bleeding bodies are nowhere in sight.
Oh, thank you. No,
Yeah,
seriously,
thanks
thank
for
you.
having me.
That was, yeah, it's been wonderful. And I mean, I wish I could still see you, but that's okay. So let me close out with first. Thank you to everyone who's watched and joined us live. We really appreciate it. And just a way I finish all our live talks is please wear a mask. I don't know what I'm gonna do like when we do this and there's no pandemic, but for now, please wear a mask over your nose, under your chin, whenever you're out in public with a lot of people. Social distance, wash your hands. Wendy also said thank you both for all you do. So very important. Thank you, Wendy. This is Wendy Bowman Plants. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. And then another thing I've been sharing is if you want to get paid and work the polls for election day in this country, in the United States, it is an option that is needed so that there are enough polling stations for people who are going to vote in person. Typically, the polling stations are personed by more elderly, and it's not really safe for them to go and do this job this year. So it's an incredibly important election. If you want to get paid and you feel comfortable and you can wear a mask all day, please go work the polls and make sure there's enough of them all over the country,
Yeah.
especially in the less privileged areas, because they don't need to wait 8 hours to vote. They shouldn't have to, right? So if that's something you could do, that would be great. And of course, shop our vendors on virtualfedfest.com. And then I usually look at what's happening next week. I didn't. So I'm pretty sure I have something on Thursday and Saturday next week at 4 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Looking at the date, but I will give you a little heads up that you want to mark the 27th of August on your calendars because we rescheduled Dr. Greger for the 27th of August. This time, no tech issues. So that can happen and not, you know, end in 2 minutes. So save your questions, get ready for that 30-minute Q&A with Dr. Greger on the 27th and all the other great people that come on. If you want to come on and be part of our lives, send us a message and let us know what kind of vegan influencer you are, and you can join us. And again, Keith, thank you so much. I wish you lived closer, and I look forward to when we can have in-person events because I've been itching to have you come for since the moment I met you to come to our events and speak in person. And I feel like you're reading this through a live and seeing you read it was incredible. So in person would be even more impactful and powerful. So thank you for everything that you do for
Thank
the
you so
animals
much.
because I know it's a lot. So take it easy, and
Thank
everyone
you.
else,
I would love to come to your
I mean, I'd love just to hang out. So if everyone wears their masks and social distance, then maybe we'll have a shot
Yeah.
at doing that. Because once again, if you wanted to have in-person events, we need to like sacrifice a bit in order to have what we want in the future. It's not a difficult concept. It's just life. So please do that and care about other people and animals and the planet. And there you go. You're like almost all the way to veganism. Just by wearing a mask and wash your hands and socially distancing. It's all part of what we do, right? It's a good way to put it. Well, everyone, have a great
It
day and a
is.
good weekend. And we might. Oh, Keith. Oh, there. Thank you. Oh, there it is. Sorry for the tech issues. Right. So everyone else, we will see you. I might have a surprise Saturday because of Triangle Veg Fest. I'm trying to put something together. But otherwise, we'll see you next week. And don't forget to shop for our virtual Veg Fest this weekend. Bye, everyone.